what stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
So that's all I had. Mark?
Well, good morning, everybody. I know you all think I'm perfect, but I screwed up in my scheduling. And we were supposed to have the jazz guitars come in today, and somehow we got our wires crossed, Joe and I. But anyway, the guitar guy was flexible enough. He's going to play next week. So we've got Joe Giuffre. Do I say that right?
Giuffre, but it's a tough one.
Giuffre.
It's a tough one.
From the Allegheny County District Attorney's Office, something that's really getting more and more prevalent, especially these days where our economy is starting to cool off a little bit, are scams, identity theft, that kind of thing. So he's going to give us kind of a master class on that, how to protect ourselves, because it's uber important that we do, because you can lose a lot if they get a hold of your information. So he's going to talk about things to protect our information, things to do, not to do, so forth and so on. Be aware of what's going on around us. So without any further, I'm going to hand it over to Joe.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Mark for helping me set this up, and I also want to apologize to all of you for canceling out back in February. But, you know, at our age, you never know. I happened to come down with the gout back then, and I couldn't walk, I couldn't drive, so just to make a long story short, I didn't want to miss, but I did have to miss. As I said, my name is Joe Giuffre, and I work for the District Attorney, Stephen Sapella, 2 days a week, which it is my job to go out and contact as many people and try to let them know about the types of fraud, scams, and abuse that's going on, and what we can do, not only through the District Attorney's Office, but other agencies throughout the county. So I brought a load of information with me today, and I'm hoping that after I'm finished, that you come up and take whatever you want. If you want one of each, I think I have enough for almost everybody here. But each and every one of these has some information that could help you to combat this fraud and scams. Just a little bit about me. I started teaching at Fox Chapel back in the early 70s. I taught for 38 years. I taught in the elementary school, enjoyed every minute of it, and I admire anyone who's still teaching today because it's just changed so much. I don't need to tell you that. I also live in the little borough of Aspinwall, where I was very involved. I was on our council for 20 years, and I served as mayor there for 4 years. I didn't run for a second term because I learned a lot those 4 years, and I learned that even your friends aren't your friends when they think you should be doing something for them. So that's a little bit about me. The district attorney started this program about 5 years ago, and he called me up and said, Joe, he says, I've known you for years. You've always been very outgoing. He says, we need somebody that's willing to go around. And we just started out with the senior centers in Allegheny County. And there are 3 of us doing that, Cindy Carioli, myself, and Dick Scringer. I don't know if any of you watch Fox News, but my partner, Cindy Carioli, did her first TV interview yesterday about fraud, and it went over very well. She talked about the income tax fraud. I don't know if any of you were able to see that. It'll probably be back on Fox News today. So anyways, we went through a training back then of the different types of scams and the different agencies that can help them. We also meet every Tuesday, either in person or through a Zoom. Sometimes the district attorney's there, sometimes we have some of the judges, sometimes we have some of the investigators, and sometimes we just sit there and we talk about the cases that have been called into us that previously week, and if we were doing the right thing for these people. Whenever someone calls us and tells us that they've either been scammed or attempted to scam, we take down their information, but we are very private with it. We do not enter it on any type of computer where somebody can hack into it and say, oh, Joe Giuffre, he fell for this scam, he fell for that scam, his phone number is this, he lives here. Because all that would do is be opening them up to more people being able to scam them, right? So you don't have to worry about, if you do call us, we do keep the information very personal. As far as the type of scam, we do record that. If it's a grandparent scam or if it's this type of scam, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. Basically, the reason we did this is the number of calls and complaints that the district attorney's office had been getting over the previous 5 years. And it says here that 12,000 people lost nearly $8 million. That's just an estimate. Why? Because not all the scams are being reported, right? A lot of us, I know including myself, you know, am I going to want my family, my friends, know that I fell for one of these scams? Maybe I will, maybe I not. So a lot of these do not even go reported, and that's the sad thing about it. So we're just going on the numbers that have been reported to us. At the bottom of the page where it says Fraud Squad, what we have done is all the buildings and all the different organizations that we have been in contact with, we have made them what we call Fraud Squad members. I think most of us in this room are at the age where we can remember the Mod Squad that was on TV. We sort of stole that from them. And all that means is we have taken their information, their email information, and every month, we'll start sending Mark these, we will send out what's called a Fraud Squad alert. And I have some previous ones up here that you can take whenever you're leaving. This one, it was given out back in February of last year. On this side, it has the top 5 scams that were being reported during that month. Okay, imposter scams, online shopping, internet, prize and sweepstakes, telephone scams. And then on the back of it, it has red flags, what to do to avoid a phone scam, to an email scam. So this is just a little good piece of information. A lot of it's common sense things I'm sure you're already aware of, but it doesn't hurt to see them in printing. This latest one that we just sent out for this past February deals with beware of the Internal Revenue imposters. Especially with this being income tax time, we're getting a lot of reports where people are finding out that their tax information, their personal information has been stolen. And it's even gone as far, and I'm sure you heard this on the news last year, where people who were expecting refunds, they go and file their taxes, they get a letter from the Internal Revenue saying, we've already processed those, we've already sent out the check. And it's gone to one of these scammers. It sounds like it shouldn't happen, it can't happen, but sorry to report to you, it does happen. So please be very careful, especially if you're doing your taxes online. I mean, let's face it, if they're able to steal information from hospitals, from department stores, from large organizations like that, if they can get into their computer systems, I guarantee you they can get into your computer system or to your phone. So please be very, very careful. So that's sort of what this explains to you on this side of the paper. If you look at the back of it very quickly, at the bottom of the page, just a bunch of phone numbers of other organizations that we work with. And we always tell you the first thing to do is make a police report. Okay? I know a lot of police departments, they hesitate, takes their time to get to you, but it's a lot better to have a report through the police department where you have a copy. So if a trial or something does come up, we have that to back up the evidence, okay? And then these other agencies, if you're not familiar with them, the Area Agency on Aging, they have 2 phone numbers, a protective service and a senior hotline, and they will help you also with any of these types of abuse, fraud, or scams. Center for Victims. Now, these next 2, National Do Not Call and Pennsylvania Do Not Call, I'll be honest with you, they don't work as well as they used to. But we still recommend that you call them once a year and say, please take my number off of these lists. It will get your phone number removed, but to be honest with you, these different organizations, these different charities, they sell your information so fast that it's hard to keep ahead of them. Also, and I didn't learn this until I started to do this program, okay, a lot of these scammers, they don't even use a paper list. With some of the smartphones that are out today, they can put 10 numbers in their phone at one time. Like my phone number is 427-3770. They can do the whole line, 3771, 3772, 3773, see, all the way up till they get 10 numbers in their phone. They push a button on their phone, all 10 calls will go out at once. The first person that says hello, that's the person they're going to try to scam, and the rest of them drop off. So unfortunately, your phone number might be unlucky enough to just be one of those that fall within that 10 cycle, and that's how you're getting your phone number. So as much as you want to try to prevent it, it's almost impossible. Also, the Federal Trade Commission. Most of this material here has been provided by them, and I explained to Mark that some of this information you can ask them and they will send it to you. Some of it I was not able to bring, and I'll explain that to you. One thing I also want to explain is that a lot of people ask, how is this program being paid for? I work basically 2 days a week, okay? And right now I'm responsible for 135 different buildings and organizations throughout Allegheny County that I try to visit at least once a year. They include senior centers, senior high-rises, libraries, groups like yours, church groups, any group that finds out about us and asks us to come and do a presentation, we will do it. We will do it. And that's how we gather our clients. And like I said, right now I have 135. This is about as far up the Ohio River I come. I go up the Allegheny all the way up to Tarentum, to Trona Heights, up to that area. Also up the Mon River, I'm in West Mifflin, Duquesne, Glassport, Homestead, McKeesport. So I've gotten to see a lot of Allegheny County that I didn't even know existed at one time. Very interesting. I started to tell you about how these programs are being paid for. These are not paid with your taxpayers' dollars. Let me let you know that up front. Some of this is obtained through grants. Some of them are from the state. Some of them are from the federal government, just to handle getting the information out about fraud and scams, okay? Other monies are taken from, sometimes you'll see on the news where they've confiscated a number of drugs. It's gone to trial. After that trial is over, they can take that and they dispose of the drugs or sometimes the equipment, the guns or whatever. If they can sell them and get some money, that money will also go into a fund which is used for some of these programs. So I just wanted to let you know. If you look at the top of the page for 1 minute, this is Project Lifesaver. This has nothing to do with fraud or scams or abuse, but this is another program that's paid for from funds through the district attorney's office. And hopefully none of us in this room will ever need this service, but I'm sure each and every one of us will know someone, a friend, a relative, someone that we go to church with, someone that we go to different events with, that will suffer from some type of dementia or forgetfulness, right? At least once a month, you hear on the news where someone has walked away from their home, their apartment. They've forgotten where they parked their car, and they've gone missing. This is to help those type of people. If they qualify, and there's a number there, 350-3138, they call that number, they will send out a social worker to talk with you, your spouse, your aunt, your uncle, whoever may be suffering from the dementia or forgetfulness. And if they qualify, they will give them free of charge a wrist bracelet that has a tracking device in it. It works just like an ankle bracelet would work on a criminal. So if this person does go out shopping or does go out walking the neighborhood, if they have this bracelet on, and unfortunately, if they get lost, they can call. And these are paramedics, retired policemen, firemen. They come out and they are able to, through the frequency, the transmitters, find that person. And I have been involved with 2 or 3 in my 5 years that we have found from people that are wearing these bracelets. We've also found out that this works very well with children with autism. So if you know anyone in your family or your friends that might have a child that has this issue, we have someone that goes around to the schools and talks to the guidance counselors and tell them, hey, you know someone that would benefit from this, we will also get that child a bracelet to wear in case they're afraid they're going to walk away from the playground or the cafeteria or the gymnasium. Of course, you have to get the parents' permission and everything, but again, personally, I've been involved with 3 or 4 families that have requested this, and we've gotten these bracelets for their children. And to be honest with you, it works even better, I think, with the children because the parents make sure they put the bracelet on. If the senior person, you know, is by themselves or something, they might not remember to put the bracelet on. So it is a good program. Is it 100% foolproof? No, but it's just something to let you be aware of, okay? All right, I'd like to pause for a second. Is there anything on this gold sheet, a question or concern or something that I can clarify better? Mark?
Joe, you mentioned to me one time about signing up for alerts or something via email.
Okay.
We wanted to get the Y involved in that so they could disseminate it.
Oh, okay. I brought some forms with me, and I'll give them to you. That's part of this fraud squad program that we have, okay? And all you have to do, hopefully, I'm pretty sure I brought that with me. Yeah, and I'll put some of these out too, okay? Fraud squad. If you would like to become a member of the fraud squad and get the email sent to you directly, please pick up one of these and fill it out. And all you have to do is put your name, what building you're associated with, your phone number, or at least your email so we can send them to you. And then once a month, and Mark, if you probably haven't received yours yet, I just turned yours in the other day, your form like that I've made up for you. So if anyone else is interested in that, or if you have another organization you think would benefit from it, please, when I finish today, I'll stick around for as long as it takes to answer any questions if anyone has anything personally, or if you want to fill one of those out. Anything else on the gold sheet? Right here. Yes, sir. Oh, sure. Okay. All right. Next thing I want to move on to, and very quickly, these are the most frequently reported frauds, okay? And this information all comes from the Federal Trade Commission. I'm not going to read these to you. I'm just going to talk to you about the topics. Healthcare scams. People want your health information, okay? They might send you an email, they might send you a text and saying, this one lady, the knee bracelet that you ordered will not be in for 2 weeks. She says, well, I have been to the doctors and I do have bad knees. So she's thinking maybe the doctor ordered her a knee brace, okay? So she went ahead and she sent in, I think it was $129 or something for the knee brace. They sent her the knee brace. It's not that they took her money and didn't send it to her, but the knee brace that they sent her was the same one she bought 6 months ago at the Rite Aid for $39. So you see how easy that was. I mean, the lady, they found out somehow, maybe they were just guessing that she had a problem with her knees. I mean, I bet you if I look out there, I bet you a third of you at least have a problem with your knees to some extent, right? I know I do. So it's easy for these scammers to pick up on things that they know we're concerned with. As I said, when I go to these senior centers, what's so bad about that is that most of these people are living there by themselves, okay? They probably get very few visitors to their high-rises where they're living. So they want that contact with the outside world. They want that contact with other human beings, right? So as soon as that phone rings, they don't care. They pick it up and they say hello and they start talking. They want that connection with other people. And these scammers know that, and they use that to their benefit. I didn't mention to you, but I'm sure you all know, we have the second oldest population next to Florida as far as seniors are. And these scammers know that. So that's why they use this area so frequently, because they know they can find people that are interested in talking to them. We figured out that these scammers work on a very low percentage. In other words, if they make 100 phone calls a day, all they need are 3 or 4 people to fall for their scam, and they've made $1,000. Most scams are between $200 and $300 that they do. Which I'm sure all of us would like to sit at home at your phone, make calls all day and make $1,000. I know I would. All right? Home repairs. Now, this is something that probably all of you should be more aware of, because I'm sure that most of you are still living in your own homes and everything, whether you own them or whatever. But especially since the COVID-19, We've been getting so many calls where people have been taking advantage of having people come in and do home repairs. I mean, it's always been an issue, but the last 3 or 4 years, even more so. Okay? During COVID, these scammers were taking advantage. They'd be driving around neighborhoods. They'd see maybe a roof that needed some work, or some house that had windows that needed repaired, or even to cut your grass or take care of your lawn. You have to be very careful, okay? Because these scammers are taking advantage of people that have you sign contracts, that have you pay them half the funds up front, and they'd either not come and finish the work, or they'd do real shabby work, and then to try to track these people down and get your money back, it's almost impossible. They claim, oh, I was injured on a job, I can't work for the next year, so I won't be able to, I've already spent your money, and you have to sue them, and it's just a large effort to recoup any of your money. Okay. Especially a lot of these people that come around with unmarked trucks. I'm not saying everyone that has an unmarked truck should be suspicious, but you know, if it says the name of the electric company, if it says the name of the plumber, if it says the name of the carpenter, you can feel a little bit more safe than somebody just pulls up in a white van and says, hey, I'm a roofer, or I'm a landscaper, just because he has a lawnmower tied to the back of his pickup truck. So, again, I think you're all probably pretty aware of that, but just to let you know, that has been very popular the last 3 years. We've gotten so many complaints from residents living at home about people not finishing their work or doing shoddy work. And then by the time you get a building inspector and you have to get the municipality or the borough to send out their building inspector or whatever, it's just it's a real effort to try to get that solved. Identity theft, okay? I have some information up here that I hope you take. This is a tough one. Hopefully none of you will ever go through identity theft. By that I mean where someone has stole your whole identity, and they're using everything, your credit cards, your driver's license. It's so very hard to track these people down, and by the time you do, they've already ruined your credit, and then just trying to get a new license for you, a new voting registration for you, whatever. It's a large, involved effort. So please be very careful with that one. Imposter scams, that's basically, I mentioned, these people that claim to be working for some company or doing some type of maintenance or whatever. Or even if people call you on the phone and they're saying they're from a certain organization, okay? You have to be very careful. You have to check them out. And sometimes it's very hard, okay? You have to go to the website. And some of these websites, they actually try to clone them, okay? Like one that has veterans with disabilities, okay? The other one says disabled vets. I mean, which one is the legitimate one? Which one is one that's trying to scam off the other one? Check all of those charities out, all those different organizations out. I already mentioned this a little bit, the Internal Revenue. We've called them several times. They will never call you by phone. If the Internal Revenue wants to get in touch with you, they're going to send you a letter. They're not going to call you by phone. I have people call me up and say, Joe, on my caller ID, it said the Internal Revenue called me today. I says, no, they didn't, ma'am. He said, what should I do? Ignore it. If the Internal Revenue really wants to get a hold of you, they will notify you by mail. But what we're talking about, that your caller IDs, whether it's on your phone or on your television, they can make that number come up whatever in the world they want. Your local drugstore. Somebody was using my local drugstore, Town Drug. I was getting phone calls from Town Drug. I thought, oh, geez, it's something about my medication. And there was somebody trying to sell me something. So I called up our drugstore and said, hey, they're using your phone number. One time, I'm sitting there watching TV, and I have caller ID on my television. Phone rings. I look at it. It's my own home phone number. Now, how in the world were they able to do that? And right away, I sit in my chair, and I'm sort of half in, half out. I said, oh my gosh, someone's down in the basement using my phone. I mean, that's the first thing that came to my mind. I mean, seriously, it's just, and I know this stuff and I do this a couple days a week, but yet, I'm half asleep in my chair, the phone rings, it's my own home phone number. Who would it be? And it was someone trying to get information. This next one, I have to smile, but I shouldn't. And usually, in the 5 years I've been doing this, I've only had one call from a gentleman. Most of them have been calls from ladies. And I think it's only because men are too proud to admit they fell for this one. Online dating scams. I know I'd get a laugh out of you guys, but I'll tell you what, people do get involved in these online dating sites. And some of them just get onto it. They want to have a good time. They tease, they kid back and forth. But other people get serious. And the most serious one I had was a lady in the city of Pittsburgh. This was a few years ago. She calls me, Joe, I really need your help. I says, okay, what's the problem? She said, well, I did something I shouldn't have done. She said, but I'm in my early 60s and I like to have fun. She said, I got on one of these online dating sites and I got involved with this gentleman who works on an oil rig in Turkey. Oh, man, sounds like a TV show, right? I said, oh, okay. She says, yeah, he's a really nice guy, she says, and we'd talk back and forth on the computer, but, he's out in the middle of the ocean, and summertime the connection wouldn't go through. So what did you do? Well, I went and I bought him a phone. And I sent him a cell phone so that we could, no matter when or where, what time of day, there's different hours, he could call me or I could call him. I said, how's that working out? She said, well, that's the problem. She said, it was fine for the first couple of months, she said, but now I'm getting $400, $500 phone bills a month. He said, and guess what, Joe? I said, what? Mine's not the only number he's calling. Oh, okay. I'm glad you finally got aware of that. I said, well, I think we can help you with that one. I said, so I called the phone company and I explained to them. And at first the guy said, well, I'm sorry, Joe. He said, this lady signed a year's contract. We can't let her out of this until the year's over. I said, look, buddy, I'm not trying to be a smart aleck. I said, but this lady is getting these high bills. She can't afford it. Please help her. He said, well, I'll have to get back to my boss. So he told his boss, and 10 minutes later, the boss called and says, Joe, tell that lady, don't worry about a thing. We shut that phone off. And in fact, we're not even going to send her a bill for this past month. I said, thank you, sir. I said, it's really appreciated. I said, I'm going to tell Mr. Zappel and have him send you a letter and tell him how much we appreciate you working with us. She said, oh, Joe, thank you. She says, you saved me hundreds and hundreds of dollars. She said, but that's not the only foolish thing I did. I said, oh, what's the matter? He said, well, she said, I told you he was going to retire in a few months, and he wants to come to the United States to meet me. So I sent him a check for $3,000 to buy a plane ticket to come here. I says, ma'am, I'm sorry. I said, you're not going to see that $3,000 nor that gentleman again. She said, you mean you're not going to go after him? I said, what do you want me to do, ma'am? Send 2 investigators to Turkey, to try to get your $3,000 back? I said, he's probably in the next town or the next city, actually. I says, and besides, he's not going to have that money, and to try to get that money back from him is going to cost you more than that $3,000. So it's just, it's a shame how these things work, but, and I'm sure it's happened to a gentleman out there too, but they're not going to admit to it. I don't blame them, I wouldn't either. All right, tech support. Especially some of you that do a lot of work on the computer, or you have the fancy iPhones and everything. They're nice to have, but believe me, like I said earlier, if they're able to get into hospital records, if they're able to get into department store records, if they're able to get into other places where they say, hey, we have this information and we want you to pay a ransom to get it back. If they can get into all of those systems, they sure as can get into your computer or your phone records. And that's easy for them to do. Very quickly, the last two, the you won scams. You're going to get a text message or an email or a phone call. Congratulations, you won. It may be something as small as a $50 gift card, or it may be a cruise or a car or whatever, but it's always the same thing. In order to do this, you have to pay an entry fee first, or you have to pay the taxes up front. Or the latest one is, send me a gift card. And I'll explain to you later why they want you to use gift cards. And the last one, unwanted calls. And I know we all would like to get those changed. And what I hope is everybody takes one of these cards, and this tells you how to stop unwanted calls on your cell phone and how to stop unwanted calls on your home phone. Now, I'd get into this, but it depends on which phone system you're in, who your carrier is. Is it Xfinity? Is it Cellular One? Is it Comcast? So they're all so different. And a lot of them have different apps. So when you call your phone carrier, ask them if they have an app that will help you to stop some of these calls. Some of the apps are free, but ask, because other ones are a monthly charge. It may be worth the monthly charge if you can afford it, but you have to make that decision. But take one of these cards, okay? All right, so that's so much involves the 10 most common scams. And you notice the one I didn't report to you there, which is also one of them because I wanted to speak to that privately, is the grandparent scam. And I'm sure you're all aware of that. If you're not, that's even if you don't have a grandchild, there's a chance that you're going to get a call and they're going to tell you your grandson, your niece, your nephew is either in jail or in the hospital. And they need money to get out or to pay for something. And just back in October of last year, I had a lady that lives down by me in O'Hara Township, 84 years old, God bless her, still lives at home. She gets a call from a young girl pretending to be her granddaughter and says, Grandma, I've been arrested. They're going to put me in jail. I need $10,000 for bail. You know I can't ask my mother for this kind of money. Can you please help me? And of course, this woman that called her knew something about her. I mean, she knew her name. She knew who some of the other grandchildren were and things like that. And this 84-year-old lady just felt so sorry for her granddaughter. She didn't call her daughter or her son. I forget whose child it was. But 84 years old, she gets into her car, drives down to the Waterworks Shopping Center down there, O'Hara, Aspinwall area, goes to the bank, takes out $10,000. Why, first of all, why the bank let her do this? We still question, but that's another story for another time. So anyways, this scumbag had the nerve to come to her house and physically pick up the $10,000. Our investigators said to her, weren't you afraid that he was going to hit you on the head or just steal your money? She says, to be honest with you, she said, all I was thinking about is I was helping my granddaughter, and that's all I wanted to do at that time. So again, it's the mood you're in when you get this call. It's how it affects you emotionally or whatever. We'd like to say, oh, we're not going to fall for these. But I'll tell you what, I'm filling out 7 to 10 reports every week of someone who has either been scammed or attempted to be scammed. So it does continue to happen. Yes, sir.
Is there a list that these people sell that would make easy targets?
I'm sure.
What I'm asking you is, my wife gets a ton of calls on her cell phone. I don't get any. How do they pick people?
Yeah, I'm sure that's true because that's one of the reasons that we discussed at one of our first meetings. That was, if we do get a report from one of you about an attempted scam or a scam actually being committed against you, we'll take the report. But we never enter that into a computer where it has your name, your phone number, your information, for the same reason that you're mentioning, because either someone gets into those lists and they sell them or give them to somebody else, or once somebody's been scammed, these scammers work with each other. They'll pass on, hey, I got that Joe Giuffre down there in Aspinwall. He fell for this one. Here's his phone number. It might work again. I mean, that's how these guys work. That's their mental thinking for these types of things. Yes, sir.
I'm with Verizon on my cell phone.
Okay.
There's a setting on the cell phone.
Stop.
That my phone will only accept calls from people that I have on my contact list.
That's good.
The problem with that is that if you gave that number to some
Someone else.
pharmacy that you used 2 years ago, they can't get you. So that's not an answer. either.
No, there's always something that, blocks it from being a permanent solution to the issue. Right now, we don't have a permanent solution or answer. I wish we did. But we have people, working on it all the time. Another big issue, and I don't have to explain it to everyone here, is that these phone companies could help out a lot more than they're doing. But what's happening? They're making too much money. They're getting all this money from these calls. And if some of these scammers, like every once in a while we get lucky, if it's a scammer in the Allegheny County area, we've caught a few of them. But here's the problem. We go into a room, there's 10 people making phone calls, right? There's no way that I can prove I've been scammed. I don't know if this guy called me, this guy called me. I can't, there's no voice recognition or anything like that I can use unless I tape it, and you're really not allowed to tape these conversations legally. So the best we can do is slap them on the wrist, have them pay a fine, confiscate all their phone equipment. 2 weeks later, they went and purchased a whole new phone equipment, and they're opened up 2 miles away. So these phone companies are making a lot of money on these things. So that's why they're hesitant to help out in passing certain laws. They're working on, there's a couple, now I've talked to my local representative and that, and they're working on a couple of things, but who knows what or anything will ever get passed.
Joe, in about the last month and a half, I have gotten an enormous amount of emails from it says from FedEx, you've got a package to pick up, all that. And I look at it and go,
I didn't order that.
And I looked up, and if you look up to the top of who sends email, there's all kinds of letters, numbers, and everything. That's a scam.
Right. See, that's the other thing too. A lot of us, we do order from Amazon or whatever, and you do get notices. Your order will be here in 3 days, or confirm this or confirm that. I mean, sometimes you think, well, did I really order that? No, I didn't order that. That's not my package. But if you get on there, they'll say, oh, okay, well then we must have the wrong information. Help us verify the information. And not thinking, you'll put in your correct information, and now they have your phone number or they have your address. I mean, you have to hand it to these guys. Here's another one. Listen to this. I thought this was quite clever. And that is that a local scammer was going on where, and you might have heard this on the news, where people were getting calls from people pretending to be long-lost relatives or a friend that you graduated with 50 years ago. And they'd call you up, especially around the holidays this was happening. Hey, Joe, yeah, I'm your cousin Sam. Remember, we met about 35 years ago at your parents' wedding. I know our family's, closer then, and we're not that close, but I just wanted to reach out to you because I'm going through some rough times right now. I lost my job. My wife has cancer. I'm going to lose my house. Can you please help me and send me a few bucks? And I stopped to think, do I have a cousin Sam? Did I ever meet him? Is this true? Or I'm getting the calls. They came to me, hey, Joe, yeah, my name's Bill. We went to North Catholic together. We graduated back in the 60s, remember? He'd give me Billy Martin or whatever. I said, oh, yeah, I remember going to school with a Billy Martin. Man, that's been 50 years. I says, how have you been? We start talking. And then the same story. Lost my job, my wife's ill, blah, blah, blah. Can you send me some money? But the number of these calls were happening so much, and people were contacting each other. Hey, did you get a call from Billy? Did you get a call from Billy? Here's what we found out. This scammer, I'll tell you what, I got to give this guy credit. He went to garage sales and flea markets, and he bought old yearbooks. And what's in the yearbook? People that you graduated with. Joe Giuffre, most likely to be a teacher, play basketball together. I mean, all that's in there. And these scammers were using these yearbooks to contact people and giving them the sad story that they needed some type of financial help. I mean, you have to hand it to them. You really and truly do. Really, truly do. Yes, sir.
I'm only 85 and I still live at home.
God bless you.
Commenting on the lady you talked for, this is 83. But the scam that I find one of the most interesting is these guys call and says he's an attorney and that my grandson, and he calls him by name, he has his name.
Right.
He's in jail at misplaced, and he was involved in a hit-and-run accident. And we need to make bail for him.
Yep.
And would you please send me $5,000? And the guy, very well-spoken.
Oh, yeah.
But it was, I knew immediately.
It was a scam.
It was a scam, but I just played along with him to see what he would say. And others, I hate to be accused of being racist, but I find most of my calls have an Asian accent.
Yeah.
And-
Or some type of foreign, yeah.
Or Indian.
Yeah.
And so I mean, my antenna.
Turns on
My antenna
the
beat
blinders,
up.
right. Along with those same type of grandparent ones, the other one that I had was a lady in Morningside got a call that her granddaughter was in a car accident down in Mexico. She was in the hospital. Grandma, don't worry about me, I'm fine, they took very good care of me. In fact, I'm going to be released today, but my hospitalization would cover everything except the last $1,200. And my mom doesn't have that kind of money. Can you please, wire me or put the $1,200 on your credit card and I'll pay you when I get back? She knew the grandmother's name and the other children in the family, the whole thing. Again, the older lady didn't call her daughter to confirm that, their granddaughter really was in Mexico. She went and got her credit card, gave them the information from her credit card. They put the $1,200 on her charge. About 20 minutes later, she said, you know what, I shouldn't have done that. She calls her daughter. Her daughter says, Mom, what were you thinking? Sure, she was on vacation in Mexico, but she's home now. She was never in the hospital. So she called right away the credit card company. Unfortunately, she called in time that they were able to stop some of the charges. All the $1,200 hadn't been used up yet. But we sent one of our investigators to talk to the granddaughter. And we said, well, how do you think this happened? She said, I didn't think about it at the time, she said. But when I registered at the hotel, the clerk at the hotel said to me, it's our policy here that we need the information of your next of kin in case something happens to you. She gave her grandmother's name, she gave her grandmother's phone number, who knows what else information she gave him. So, we called down at Mexico where this was, and we told them about it, but nobody could ever prove, was it the guy working at the hotel that took the information? Was he working with somebody else and gave that information to one of his buddies, and they were going to split the $1,200? But you see how these things, and I know I'm going overboard here, but I just want to clarify too, it's not just seniors that are being scammed, okay? It's everyone. But this program is to address seniors. My own daughter-in-law, who's in her early 40s, okay, works for a church out in the North Hills. This was during the pandemic. One day they're working at the computer, working on the bulletin for the next Sunday's services, and her and the secretary both get I forget if it was an email or a text now, so long ago, supposedly from their pastor. I'm sorry to inform you, I've just been notified that my brother has been in a serious car accident up in Uniontown. Unfortunately, it sounds quite severe, and I'm on my way to Uniontown to be with my family. Unfortunately, I left without much money today. Could you please go, there was a Giant Eagle like a block away from their church. Could you please go to the Giant Eagle and purchase some gift cards so that if I need to buy food for my family or if I need gasoline or whatever. So they went and bought $500 worth of gift cards, some for get-go gas, some for food, some for just a debit card type of thing, okay? And I'm sure you all know this, on the back of a gift card or a credit card, what is there? A code, right? And all you have to do is give that code. So they put the code on the email or the text, I forget what it was. They put the code for these different credit cards. About 3 hours later, the pastor walks in. They go, how's your brother? How's your brother? What are you talking about? What brother? The one that was in a car accident. I didn't have any brother that was in a car accident. Right away, they said, oh my gosh, we've been scammed. So they hurry up again. They called the gift cards where they bought them, but they had already gone through. They already had used them up. So, who thinks, your pastor is going to try to scam you? You're not going to think that. He's in help. I'm going to help him. I'm sure he'll pay me back when he gets back. But it had to be someone that knew that the pastor was going to be away for a couple of hours and say, hey, I'm going to take a chance on it, okay?
Another scam that's I don't think on your radar is charities. I use Charity Navigator and Trustpilot. You wouldn't believe the number of charities that very little money goes to the people they're saying. So if you're not computer savvy, you can find a number, you can call them up and say, hey, I'm thinking about giving to this charity, and they will give you the information. They track how much goes to administration, how much for soliciting donations and everything. One I haven't seen for a couple of years, but was pretty prevalent, was police fraternal order.
Police retirement.
Yeah, I'm from Lodge so-and-so, and I said, send me your IRS forms.
Yeah.
Never got a
No.
thing, yeah. A
Now
lot of
that-
police.
that's
Haven't
a-
seen them in a couple of years, but
That's a common one, the retired police fund.
retired police funds, yeah.
Also with the charities, you know, my wife had the same thing. One of the charities called, I think it was a veterans group, if I'm not mistaken. And she said, yeah, we'll probably, we'll give $50. And then she thought about it. She said, well, by the way, she says, how does it work? How much of the $50 will they get? And like you said, the guy tells her 20%. He says, I'm going to give you $50. They're going to get 10. Where's the other 40 go? And like Mark said, administrative, for mailings, to send our people to conferences. She said, you know what, buddy, forget about it. She said, I'll go down to the Legion tonight and buy everybody a beer with the $50, she said. They'll be more appreciated than that. But like Mark said, I mean, you have to think about this stuff all the time. I mean, where in the world are these people? They're relentless.
I'm beginning to send letters to some of the charities I support, telling them, do not send my information on to other charities, because that's what they do. One charity gets your name and information, and another charity, they share,
Yeah.
data share between charities, and next thing you know, you get all kinds of solicitations for
And that's a
charity.
good thing to do, but on the other hand, we found out too, that it only takes one person working in that organization that can get their hand on that list, and they freelance. They make, you know, at work, they get their hands on a copy of that list, and then they sell. I mean, I understand that that's a good thing to do, Mark, but it's just, I just want to know, it's not 100% foolproof is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, questions, somebody,
Could you touch on new fraud, title insurance?
title.
Stealing title insurance and getting your home free and clear.
Okay, yeah, now that one,
Title fraud.
yeah, that one I haven't been
Insurance,
privy to, where they're getting, like from your home, they're getting copies of the title or whatever.
Yeah, there's,
their title, your title in their name, they're buying their house, you're getting their house, they're buying cars, transferring, and you're getting all this money against your credit, and they own everything.
I see that one I'm gonna have to bring up next Tuesday at our meeting. That one I haven't been privy to, you know.
there was a company advertising on TV, kind of like LifeLock, for the very thing that Ryan's talking about, to protect your
The
title.
other one that just came up recently, I don't know if you saw these new commercials now where you can sell your life insurance policy.
Yeah.
We're having somebody check, we're having one of our legal.
Legal. That's legal.
Is it? We're having one of our legal people check that out at this part and see what could possibly be a fraud in that line.
Yeah.
That's the newest one that I know we've turned over to our law department to look into. Yes, sir.
Is it illegal to give them a hard time?
No, not so ever. I mean, and I tell you what, people enjoy doing that. I mean, my sister-in-law was one of the worst at this. She'd keep them on the line and they'd say, oh, she said, wait, I got to go get my credit card. And she'd walk away from the phone for 5-6 minutes and then come back and the guy would still be waiting on her. You know, I mean, it's just, yeah, no, that's fun. That's fun.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
How well organized all over the country? Is there an organization, these scammers are?
Well, again, there are some that are organized, but you know what? So many people have seen what an advantage this is, that you have so many freelancers doing it now that they figure, why should I pay into this large group when I can do just as much by copying some of the things? But there were some organizations that they have said that are definitely behind a lot of this. They give the training for it. They give them all the information. They might even give them some of the list. Hey, give me $1,000 and I'll give you information on how to do this, and I will give you a list of 10,000 people. We know stuff like that goes on.
What about law enforcement?
Over here, wait a minute.
1 second, sir, go ahead.
Are there any Social Security scams out there?
Oh, all the time, all the time. And again, I've had people that have been taken advantage of there. The one lady that I worked on her case, okay, again, she was in her 80s, and this lady called her from the Social Security, says, look, ma'am, you are not going to receive another Social Security check unless you update your information. She said, why do I need to update? I haven't changed anything. I live at the same place. I have my check sent to the same bank. She said, look, lady, I'm just telling you, this is your last opportunity. Either you tell me where exactly you want your Social Security check deposited, or you're not going to receive one. So she took the scare, and she gave her the name of the bank. Of course, the next month came. She didn't get her Social Security check. I called Social Security. I says, why isn't this lady getting her check? Oh, no, we sent it out. Same place. Yeah, same bank. Oh, no. She called us about 2 weeks ago and asked us to switch it to this other bank. And it was the scammer that did that. She scared this poor lady into giving her the name of the bank. So she called up Social Security and says, I moved with my daughter, who now lives in another area, so I want to change my place of deposit, direct deposit. And I said to Social Security, you mean that's all it takes, just to give you a call? I said, that doesn't seem very safe. They said, oh, yeah. They said, we have hundreds of people a month that do that because either they've moved in with a different relative, or they've gone to a different high-rise, or they've moved from their own home to a high-rise, and they want it at a bank that's closer to them. So that's Social Security one, but that's terrible because, and then we did track the person down finally that did, we had to get a court order and find out who opened up the new account. The bank won't just give anybody that information, even us. We had to get a court order to find out what bank went to the address where it was listed. They were gone. So who, did they do it to that one person? Did they do it to 5 or 6 people that month, and then they moved on? Yes, sir.
One of the things you may have seen on TV, it's called AO Realty, where they'll buy your house. And
Reverse mortgage?
Here's where the scam comes in. And it's a shame. It hits the people that have their own house, and the realtor of this AO comes to your house and says, we want to buy your house, but we don't need it right now, and you could use maybe $600. So you've signed this contract with us so that when we want to sell the house,
First.
yeah, you sell through us. So they sign it. Now, when you go to read the fine print after you sign this, you find out you cannot, if you want to sell the house, you cannot use any other realtor than them. And they have a stipulation on that contract. They have 40 years. They can hold you on that. So you're stuck for 40 years for $600
You're not going to sell your house unless
to
you
try
go
to sell your house.
unless you go
And you
through
know
that.
if you go to sell it to them, it's going to be for peanuts on a dollar.
And I'm sure it's not one of the reputable real estate companies either. They would never do something like that. I know. Oh, I believe you, but I'm saying I could never see, like Remax or Mr. Hanna's company or something like doing something like that. That's just so low. Yes, sir.
Your opinion, if you have some time on your hand and a call comes in and you're pretty sure it's a scam call, is there any advantage to answering the phone and maybe just setting it down for 5 minutes without saying hello or anything? In other words, does that count maybe as a call connected and they won't call that number again?
Yeah,
Or does it have-
it is discouraging for these guys because, like I said, they work on a percentage. They're not going to want to waste 5 minutes, or like I told you, my sister-in-law, 6, 7 minutes for her to go and look for the credit card or a checkbook or something. So the longer you can prolong them, they're going to say, you know what, I'm not calling this guy back. I mean, I'm sure it has to help them. I don't have any definite records or theories about that, but it seems the most logical. Yes, sir.
Go back to the Social Security. I changed banks, but Social Security in Baden, they made me jump through the hoops. They wanted all the information about the old bank. And they didn't, they just mentioned some things. I said, no, it's spelled this way, that way. They made me go through hell before I could transfer it to the new bank.
Well, that's good, and I'm sure, and this is something that we've noticed in the last 3 to 5 years also. Most of your banks, most of your credit card companies and everybody now, they have their own fraud departments. So they're pretty privy to all of these things. So they know what to watch out for. So your bank has probably taken more notice into these type of Social Security changes than some banks. Some banks are probably so busy, they get the call that, hey, I want to change my banks, and they ask for very little proof.
I called Social Security to change it, and they had me give all the information about the old one before they let me.
They do. Well, that's, I think, what they did to this lady. They basically got the information from her about her old bank, and they ran with that. Yes, anyone else, please?
Yeah, you were talking about the title lock. Somebody was asking.
Yeah, that's, I got
It's been out there for a while, and I've asked a few people, sort of like yourself, who are involved in scams about it, and I haven't found anybody who knows about it or knows of people who've had it. So it makes me wonder, is title lock the scam? I mean, are they peddling something that really isn't an issue? I wonder how would a bank take care of a title without doing a title search and everything? It just seems like an unlikely
so
kind
hard.
of scam.
I mean, especially if there's any type of mortgage or taxes.
Which means a legitimate company, seemingly legitimate company is trying, and there
Yeah.
are lots of people endorsing this title lock.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to be upfront with you and this gentleman here. That's one I haven't heard about. I'm definitely going to go back and bring that up at our meeting, because this is the first I'm hearing about this one, and usually we hear about all these different scams.
What about law enforcement?
Well,
When you call and obvious scam, how interested is law enforcement in following?
again, I'm not going to lie to you, okay? It depends on your local police department. It depends on your local mayor and your local police chief. I know when I was mayor down Aspinwall, and we used to get these people wanting them to take fraud reports. I'd be in the office and they'll say, oh, we'll call you back, or we'll get to it later. I says, no, you won't. You're going to go now and take that report. It may seem frivolous to you. He said, oh, we're never going to catch the person. I said, that's not the point. This person that's already gone through enough, they at least want to know that someone is listening and someone is paying attention. But I'll be honest with you. We've gotten calls from different areas just saying, my police won't come and take the report, or they keep putting it off and saying they'll be there. And I don't want to talk against police department, because they have enough of issues on their hands. And I mean, if it's a police department that has a couple shootings going on and a couple robberies going on, you can't blame them for not running out and wanting to take these fraud reports. But that fraud report is important to you, important to the person who's been defrauded. And that's hard. But again, I'm being honest with you. It takes a while. Some are more helpful in those situations. Okay.
Joe, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you. I'm going to
Very
stick around if
informative.
anybody has it. But please come up and take some, if not all of these pamphlets. Take one of these clips to hold it. I'm going to stick around for a while. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.